Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime Series with Kevin, where we add value to people's lives happening every day at 12 on ebizradio.com. Today's brand new segment, Lunchtime Careers, is all about showcasing experts in the field of recruitment, HR, and career coaching, and expert advice in support of people out there who want to make a difference to their careers. And today's topic of discussion, we're kicking it off with, I'm going to show that it's showcase that research showing that 69% of managers are uncomfortable communicating with their staff, and 37% of these managers dislike talking about their staff's performance. To give us some insight on this conversation today, we have the amazing Gerrans, who's back with us, coach, co-founder, and shift shaker. Dale, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Kevin, and thanks for having me back.
So today we are talking about communication. I think what's interesting about communication is so many coaches, so many people, so many managers and leaders out there go out and say, yeah, we know communication is important, but invariably, I mean, you and I both know that it's still a big factor where a lot of people just get it wrong.
Well, with over 30 years experience in the business consulting and coaching space, I've found communication to be the #1 issue in every company I walk into. And it's that assumption that people are understanding what you expect of them. Yeah. So I find a big thing is the communicating expectations.
Exactly, and I think that's speak to us more about that, because we invariably go to a space where we go, okay, well, this is what needs to happen. This is what you need to do. Please go out and do it. And through to obviously doing what I do, but also moments where I've actually had to showcase and share information with people as well. We sometimes take it for granted that we have explained and effectively communicated our expectations. Until we've really painted that picture for people just really go according to their own assumptions, right?
Well, Kevin, let's go back to Dot. It's somebody looking for a job.
Yeah.
And this is where recruitment agencies often want to keep the client separate from the person that's been the candidate. So the candidate often doesn't even know what company they're going into when they start lining up the interviews. Yeah. And for me, this is already a mismatch, because is this the type of company that is aligned to my vision, is aligned to my values? And it's not saying the one is wrong and the other is right. It's just saying I've got to find the place where I know I will feel good, where I feel I belong. So that's already lack of communication. I recommend to everybody, go Google the company you've got an interview with. Read their values, see what their mission is, see what they actually do. And is this something that excites you, or is it something that you have absolutely no interest in? Because it's that emotional connection that brings up the value you've got to add and allows you to add that value because you're excited about what you're doing. So that's one of the big things I see from the beginning when people are going for interviews.
And that really, like you mentioned, from all the way from the being the employee and looking for work, but also the employer from an HR perspective, from a management perspective, really laying out that absolute clarity on this is the expectation and this is why we're doing what we're doing, and this is why we want it done this way, right? If we don't go to that degree and really clarify what it is that's expected of us, invariably we're going to miss the mark somehow. And I think in the world today, that's one of the things that you mentioned. The information you shared with me earlier is most employees leaving their position because they are not managed well. And it's scary to think that from a manager's perspective, or from an HR perspective, or from a leadership perspective, people are leaving your business based on the fact that there is ineffective communication happening.
Oh, most definitely. In fact, if you go and have a look at exit interviews, and I've done quite a lot of research about this. Most people are going, I don't know where I am, I don't know where I'm going, I don't see growth opportunity within the company. And that tells me one thing. It tells me what's happening to those quarterly reviews or annual reviews. What type of questions are being asked? Because for me, the biggest asset in a company is your staff. I know what it costs to replace staff. And it's not just the cost to company, it is the training cost. It is getting them aligned to your policies, your processes, everything like that. So if you start interviewing the correct people and employing the correct people, staff turnover drops drastically, without a doubt. But it's about having those conversations where it's not just about skills. It's about, where do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself growing in the company? Where would you like to be? And then it's also, I mean, induction processes for me are huge. And most companies run an induction process around what the company does. So that's, once the staff member has joined, they go, okay, we've got a day of induction or something for you. But at the end of the day, it's more than that. It's, what about the departmental induction processes? These are our expectations. This is the way we do things here. This is our vision and the way we work as a team in this department. This is what we've employed you for, and where you come in, where we expect you to add value. So those are very often missing in companies.
Yeah. And, yeah, just a bit earlier, you also mentioned purpose, right? So, what is that purpose and vision? Yeah, I think a lot of people, especially, when you enter a new environment, a lot of people don't really know. And purpose in itself, that, what is my purpose, that conversation, so many people don't know. So many people don't know what their purpose is and why they're doing what they're doing. And speak to us about that point, and why this is so important for us to investigate.
Well, I've worked with a lot of HR departments, okay? And it's that interview process. It's that interview process that is more than the skills. A CV will tell you if a candidate's got the skills for the job. And you can ask a few questions about them. But that interview process for me is about the coffee chat. It's about, who are you? What are your values? And this is who we are, and this is the way we do things here. This is our company culture. This is our vision and what we're working towards. How do you feel about that vision? Where do you see yourself fitting in? Where do you see yourself growing within this organization? So as much as the responsibility is with the candidate, it is also with the company if they choose to get the correct people in. And sometimes you've got a brilliant candidate. I remember scanning CVs once, and I was working in a business consultancy as the general manager there. And the CV was brilliant. It was one of the best. But our consultants were out at our clients, and they were dealing with our clients at senior management level. We didn't employ juniors because we were a small consultancy. And this guy's CV was great, but it says, I like to work in a well-managed environment. And everybody else was raving. And I said, guys, this guy wants to be managed, and we need him to manage himself and connect with our clients. There's no ways this is the right candidate for this position.
Yeah.
And it's about reading between the lines. It's about asking the right questions.
Absolutely, and that's exactly the position that being a coach in that position kind of recognizes, right? But you can speak to us about collaborate, encouraging conversation and brainstorming around situations, projects, etc. Why do you think, even from a management leadership perspective, why is it so important to literally be able to collaborate with employees?
Okay, well, collaboration for me is first about creating a safe space. So when you are brainstorming, and I've actually just done a whole session on innovative brainstorming, but when you are brainstorming, you're creating that safe space where no idea is stupid and there's something of value in everything everybody's got to say. So if you see the brainstorming rooms are set up, they won't have chairs in, they might have beanbags in and whiteboards and blackboards and colourful pens and crayons and that type of thing. Even a microphone or something to speak into,
Yeah.
and allow people to express themselves on any level possible. So there's always an issue that comes up. And then it's about, okay, as a team, how are we going to find a solution? So the whole focus has been solution minded and not the problem finder. And then it's come up with anything. And I always say the first 30 ideas chuck out the door because you're just going on what everybody else has done. Let's be unique. Let's be different. Let's jump up and down while we brainstorming and innovating. Let's work off let each person say something and build on their story. And that works brilliantly. I mean, we normally have a fun, creative afternoon with lots of drawings and lots of pictures. And yeah, I use that technique when I'm working with companies with their values and the behaviors that support their values. You know, just let's get creative and innovative and really build this company culture while we're doing it.
I'm just going to stop. So moving on from collaboration, I love that idea. I think it's an amazing way of kind of really getting everybody on board, but it also a great team exercise, right? It's an opportunity to connect with your team. It's an opportunity to really get everyone involved and really just get the version from everyone else's, their own story. And I think that's such an important thing. Then one of the points you raise here on the content you're sharing with us today is check-ins. Why is it so important for us to check in?
Well, the thing is, I know that when I put in weekly meetings and I suggest that people put them in businesses, the communication that happens in a 15-minute coffee session is brilliant. So I'll give you an example of one of the companies I was doing work with. The workshop manager, the sales manager, and the finance manager got together every Monday morning for 15 to 20 minutes. And it was basically as they came in, cups of coffee, sit down around a boardroom table or a meeting table, and what are our plans for the week? It was in the IT industry. So if you know anything about the IT industry, stock turns over quickly, stock becomes obsolete quickly. And it was about what have we got in stock? What we're going to shift this week? Let's still try and make a profit on it because something new has come out that's going to replace it. What's in for repair? What can we move? What parts can we use? And just that 20-minute communication per week improved the performance in those three departments exponentially. It was, this is what we're doing, this is what stores has got in stock, this is what the warehouse is doing, this is the expectations to meet budgets and to meet sales figures. And yes, it works brilliantly.
And that's lends itself to exactly what we started with, right? Really understanding what communication is and the importance of creating those expectations, because on a regular basis, you're collaborating, you're checking in, there's purpose-driven people involved in this business. And the last point, that I think is so unbelievably important, and I think people just sometimes forget. I think, you get busy, you get, and you kind of like, get busy with what you're doing, and you forget to celebrate. You forget to celebrate your wins, right? It's one of my coaching processes where you have to literally take the time to, on a weekly basis, to celebrate what you're doing well, and why you're doing it well, and what's happening in your environment, and really celebrating that which is working. Why do you think that this lends itself to great communication skill?
Oh, it definitely does. I mean, so often, especially in the business world where there's a lot of stress, deadlines, and pressure, everybody is driving towards the next thing, the next time frame, the next target, the next deadline. And sometimes you need to just stand still and say, look at how much we've achieved already. Put those small short goals in place. Let's celebrate at the 1 month, at the 3 month, at the 5 month, or even the 1 week, the 3 week, the 5 week. And when we reach a deadline or when we deliver what we said we'd deliver, let's celebrate it and say, well done. But more than that, it's really about the connection between the people. And this is something you said earlier on, is it's so easy to put the expectations on the table. And this is what happens when people join companies. Here's our company's policies, here's your roles and responsibilities. And now you know what you're supposed to do. But you actually don't. You know the skills you need to do the job, and you have the skills you need to do the job, but you're not in line with the processes and that are used within the company. And you don't know when the meetings are. You don't know what the expectations are from your deliverable point of view. And this is so important when you spend time connecting with people. And I know, look, I'm in my 50s, so I know when I started working, we didn't have email. In fact, we didn't even have faxes. We used ticker tape to put messages out there. But there's something that has been lost. And that is when you took something to somebody, you went and you took it and you put it on their desk. And when you were there, you had a conversation, you built a relationship. And not always about business. It was how's the husband, how's the children. But you had a conversation around the business, the issue that had come up, and you started finding solutions. At the moment, somebody sends one email, which is one-sided. It sits in the inbox for a while. A week later, when everything's changed, or 5 hours later, or a day later, somebody responds, but stuff's happened in between. So now communication is been overshot. It's not layering itself properly. And when there are important conversations to have, you need to, whether it's telephonically or personally, face to face, or through Zoom or something like that, you need to connect straight away and have these conversations before other things start dirtying the water.
Yeah. It's such an important point that you mentioned. I think, we consider remote working at the moment, and people kind of look at remote working and going, yeah, but people are behaving slightly differently, and employees are starting to show up differently because of this remote working situation. And recently, I've had a client where this was a conversation, and I asked about the approach. So, what is the approach that you guys have? And he mentioned that what they're noticing is that a lot of people are taking off sick. They just, they if they're not taking off sick leave, they're literally taking off and going to some kind of breakaway moment that they need away from work. And it's purely based on the fact that they never actually put their screens on. So when they're actually doing team meetings, they get so caught up in the project that they're busy with, they don't put the screens on. There is complete disconnect from them. And from a behavioral sciences perspective, 93% of your nonverbal communication is non-verbally, right? And you're kind of going, okay, well, like if I can't see you, then I feel completely disconnected with you. And my advice to him was, you really have to consider how humans at the end of the day feel like they're connected. When we're talking about effective communication, it's great to be talking about the project and the busyness and the work, but how much time are you actually taking out to connect? Like you're saying, talk about the husband, talk about the kids, and talk about what's happening other than just work, right? And even if you're doing it remotely, it's so important to be able to connect with that individual at the end of the day. And I think that lends itself so well to everything you're mentioning today. I mean, if we're looking at from clear expectations to purpose, to collaborate, to checking in, to celebration, and I want to add to the end of that and say, find your time to connect with someone, right?
Definitely.
So,
Kevin, I agree with you 100% there, because connection, as you said, 93% of communication is nonverbal. And as coaches, we know that because we've really studied that. But it makes such a difference to connect to somebody and to find out what's working for them and what's not working for them. And I've got a process that I recommend my clients use, especially in senior management meetings, because a lot of my clients are senior executives in companies and they have high pressurized lives. There's a lot of pressure that's going on at work. They're balancing work and home all the time. They're trying to find that balance in their lives. And it's just before every meeting, just have what I call clearing. What's working for me? What's not working for me? And what am I carrying? And what you're carrying could be something as silly as, I had a flat tire on the way to work this morning and it's thrown me off balance for the day.
Yeah.
So now if this person reacts in a way or responds in a way that they're not used to, or you're not used to hearing from them, you get where they are, you get where they're coming from. They started off their day with a flat tire and they're still recovering from that. And this is part of building relationships. Now, for me, emails, there's a big difference between the word discuss and have a conversation.
Yeah.
Because discuss actually means I'm going to bombard you with my expectations.
Yeah.
Conversation means we're having a two-way interaction where both people will be heard. And from a leadership point of view or a management point of view in a company, the types of emails that are sent are those discussion emails. This is what I want from you. And sometimes there's not clear instructions on what processes to use or exact clarity on what they actually want. It is just an end result. So suddenly that whole opportunity for a conversation to be had has been removed. Then you've got the employees sitting on the other side going, how do I start this? No leadership. How do I start this? I don't want to ask in case I look stupid.
Yeah.
He's asking me to do it, so he's clearly expecting me to know how to do it. And this is the reason most people leave companies. They are not led well, they are not managed well, and they're not sure how to initiate those difficult conversations.
Yeah. Absolutely. Dan, I think that's fantastic, and thank you for sharing. If we sort of had to summarize up this conversation today, what would you say that why we really need to consider communication and the expectations around that for today's message?
Well, what I'd say to the people that are in the companies that are employing staff was be very clear about the type of person you're looking for and be very clear about how you expect them to fit in the company, and then design your interview process around connecting with that type of person. If I was speaking to the candidate that is looking for a job, I would say, do research on the company, see if the values in that fit into your values. Just find out a bit about them and then have a list of questions to ask them that you can't find on the internet that you'd like to know. And be very clear about who you are and where you would like to see yourself grow within the company, because these are the conversations that need to be had up front. You know, if somebody's going into a position where there's no growth opportunity, and you say, what is my opportunity for growth? And they say, actually, where you are, not much. Thank you very much for your time. This is not the place I belong.
Yeah.
Because it only causes resentment further on down the line if you accept it.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's exactly why we want to start having these conversations, right? Because the more we empower ourselves with understanding why we're doing what we're doing and how to do it more effectively, the more we're starting to churn out and really carve out where we want to be in the world. And so many employees at this point, that I also come across, they're just doing what they do because they've done it for a long time, or they're used to it, or it's the first available job that they could get. Yeah, there's so much more possibility after that, right? Dale, so if anyone wants to get hold of you, we can go to shiftdimensions.co.za, right?
Shift Dimension, no S.
No S.
.co.za. Dale at Shift Dimension.co.za or Dale Gerrans on Facebook, on LinkedIn. There's also Shift Dimension on Facebook and LinkedIn. So, and we've got a YouTube channel where we post tips and that type of thing all the time. So, yes, thank you.
Fantastic. Dale, thank you for your time. And guys, thank you for joining us for the Lunchtime Careers segment, showcasing experts in fields of the recruitment, HR, and careers around adding value to people's lives. Dale, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining me, and I'll chat to you soon.
Thanks, Kevin.
Cheers for now.